Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. 2020 was a wild season for Kansas State. The Wildcats lost their opener to Arkansas State out of the Sun Belt, but then won 4 straight, including road wins at Oklahoma and TCU, rising as high as number 16 in the country. And then they lost their final 5 games, including 3 by at least 27 points. What is in store for Kansas State now in 2021? So again, guys, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here to predict and analyze Kansas State's schedule for this 2021 college football season. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And also make sure to check out everything down in the description below. We have so much exclusive content for you there, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Make sure to go sign up for those today before the season starts. All of our college football and NFL spread picks. Promise you're not going to want to miss out on it. So let's take a look at Kansas State, guys. Chris Klieman is entering his 3rd year now in Manhattan. And I wouldn't say expectations are higher than ever. What Chris Klieman is trying to do is just consistently get Kansas State to the postseason. And eventually, this team can maybe break through and start contending for Big 12 titles. But we know right off the bat that's not going to be the case this year. When you look at this team, though, they have enough talent to maybe win anywhere from 6 to 8 games. The offense is going to be the strength of this team, no doubt about it. And they got a major boost when their quarterback, Skylar Thompson, chose to return for another year in Manhattan. It's a 6-year starter now for Kansas State. He was injured in just his 3rd game of the year, kept him out for the rest of the season, but he has 30 starts to his name. 30 starts to his name, has thrown for over 5,000 yards and rushed for over 1,000 yards in his career at Kansas State. So he is back to lead this offense. He has one of the best playmakers within the Big 12 now in Deuce Vaughn. Rushed for 642 yards and had 434 reception yards too. Deuce Vaughn is a guy that's not just a threat out of the backfield as a runner, but certainly as a threat out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Can do it all. And then you have Malik Knowles coming in at wide receiver as well. This Kansas State offense only averaged 26.6 points per game, only averaged 337.4 total yards per game, 106th in the nation, but they have the pieces together now to finally take a major step forward. When you look at the defense, to me that's a major cause of concern if I'm Kansas State, if I'm Chris Klieman. It's the defense that worries me. 5 starters are back, but they lose big stars like Wyatt Hubert, had 8.5 sacks last year. They lose Justin Hughes. But Klieman recognized they needed some help in some key areas and went out and utilized the transfer portal extremely well. And they landed one big transfer in Julius Brents from Iowa to come in and help the secondary at cornerback. That's the area that needs the most work, as Kansas State allowed 267.5 passing yards per game, the worst mark in the Big 12, and 109th in the entire country. Jerron McPherson is also back at safety, so the secondary guys should improve. Even if it's not by much, it should improve in 2021, maybe enough to tack on a few extra wins for the Wildcats. So let's take a look at Kansas State, guys, what they're up against in 2021. The schedule is relatively favorable. I will give them that. And that's a major reason why this team should go bowling again under Chris Klieman. They open up the season against Stanford in Arlington. So a very intriguing Week 1 matchup, one that's certainly not getting that much attention. There's some bigger games against top 10, top 15 opponents that are going to overshadow this game. But this is going to be a fun one in Week 1. And you look at Stanford, guys. This is a team that, to me, in the Pac-12, and we've already done our Pac-12 predictions, is quite the anomaly. I don't really know what to expect from Stanford this year. But we do know that they have a brand new quarterback in Jack West. And that's the one thing that's going to really benefit Kansas State here. I'm not expecting Stanford to have this electric passing offense, and that's good for a secondary that was so bad last year and desperately needs improvement and time to build this year. Stanford allowed 222 rushing yards per game last year. And while I know that the back 7 for Stanford is strong, that linebacking core, that secondary, I think Deuce Vaughn has a big day. I think Deuce Vaughn has a big day in Arlington, is able to exploit Stanford just enough to give the Wildcats the win. Tack on geography here. I think you're going to see more Kansas State fans there than Stanford. All of that being said, I think we like Kansas State just a little bit better than the Cardinal in what should be a close Week 1 game. They're 1-0. I believe they defeat Southern Illinois out of the FCS, but the Salukis surprised a lot of people last year. They're going to give Kansas State a fight in Week 2. Don't overlook them. But Kansas State should defeat them, and we're going to give them the win over Nevada, but they're no slouch either. Last year Kansas State fell to Arkansas State in that Week 1 matchup. They could fall to Nevada this year. It'd be like the equivalent of losing to Arkansas State because the Wolfpack have one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Carson Strong returning. They have 19 starters total coming back from a 7-2 team last year, a team that averaged 319.1 passing yards per game. Well, this Kansas State secondary, as we mentioned, was very, very bad. This is going to be the toughest passing attack they faced all year. Southern Illinois won't do it. Stanford won't do it. If this secondary is still struggling, Nevada can come in and put up some points. But I'm going to have just a little bit of faith in Chris Kleiman's squad. I think at home in Manhattan, they take down Nevada, but it is very, very close. So they open up the year at 3-0. They're halfway to bowl eligibility. How about that? They haven't even played a single Big 12 game yet. Haven't even played a single conference game yet. Their first one comes on the road against Oklahoma State, a team they lost to 20-18 last year, a team they probably should have beat. They were up 12-0 at one point, gave up an 85-yard fumble return for a touchdown. They get a field goal or a touchdown out of that, they win the game. Oklahoma State doesn't get that touchdown, Kansas State wins. The Wildcats battled back, and their two-point conversion attempt, a little over 2 minutes left, failed, and they fell by 2 points. Oklahoma State now, though, gets to have this game in Stillwater. So they went on the road and won it in Manhattan last year. That's tough enough as it is. Now they have home field advantage. Spencer Sanders should be fully healthy now. He did play in that game, obviously, but should be back to form 100% now in 2021. They have a solid running back duo. And their defense, kind of like Stanford, as we mentioned, is going to be the strength for Oklahoma State. Their secondary is elite. Their linebacking core is elite. Last year was one of the better defenses Oklahoma State had. Their best, and when it comes to yardage, since 2009. They can be even better than that this year. And at home, I think they're able to shut down Kansas State, again, who has the offensive talent, but that doesn't mean that their offense is going to skyrocket and be one of the best in the Big 12. That's not going to happen. When they face pretty solid defenses like Oklahoma State, expect the Wildcats to struggle. They will, and they will lose, 3-1. They then take on Oklahoma. Kansas State has made a name for themselves the last 2 years because of their big upsets over Oklahoma. 2 years ago, they took them down in Manhattan. Last year, they beat the Sooners 38-35 in Norman. So the one thing's for sure for me, one thing that's become very evident is Chris Kleiman and Kansas State are not afraid of anybody. They are afraid of no man. They are not afraid of Oklahoma, the kings of the Big 12. They welcome them. Come on. Come to Manhattan. We're not scared of you. We're not going to shake in our boots knowing we have to play you in fear. Because whether they get down early or whether they take a big lead, it doesn't matter. They're going to bank on beating everybody they play. And Oklahoma's no exception. The problem is Oklahoma's hungry for some revenge. And this Oklahoma team is maybe the best that we've seen under Lincoln Riley. Spencer Rattler in at quarterback, the Heisman Trophy favorite for many. Kennedy Brooks in at running back, Marvin Mims. That trio right there is one of the best in the nation. Added in Mike Woods as a key wide receiver transfer from Arkansas. And Alex Grinch's defense is going to be one of the best in the nation. It's going to be one of the best in the country. This team from top to bottom, guys, is so good. I don't know if anybody in the Big 12 can beat them this year. So while Kansas State does have their number, all good things must come to an end. They're going to fall to Oklahoma in Manhattan. And I think the Sooners win this game comfortably. I think they go in and flex their muscle a little bit after the last 2 years and win that game comfortably in Manhattan. So Kansas State is now 3-2 going into their bye week. They come out of the bye and take on Iowa State, a team they lost to 45-0 last year. I can just tell you right now, we're not going to see a 45-point swing. We're not going to see a 45-point swing. This Iowa State team, kind of like Oklahoma, is better than the team we saw last year. 19 starters back for the Cyclones. Iowa State is without a doubt Oklahoma's biggest threat in the Big 12. The Cyclones are without a doubt a college football playoff contender. And with 19 starters back, 10 on defense, 9 on offense, Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, 2 Heisman Trophy contenders, this team is just stacked from top to bottom. Again, they won 45-0 last year. And I get that was an Ames. We're not going to see a 45-point swing this year despite Kansas State coming off a week of rest. Iowa State wins big, and I think they're going to win big against a handful of teams this year. So Kansas State, just like that, they're 3-0. They dropped 3 straight games. They're 3-3. This next little stretch here is going to make or break their season. Texas Tech, TCU, and Kansas. They need to win the majority, if not all, of those 3 games. At least 2, if not all. Because those are all very, very winnable for Kansas State. Games where they could very well be favored. Because after that, they face a tough West Virginia team, a Texas team on the road, and a Baylor team they lost to last year. So these next 3 games will be telling on whether or not Kansas State can get to the postseason or not. They open up that little stretch at Texas Tech. They beat the Red Raiders 31-21 last year. Beat them by 10. And I think this is going to be another close game. And this feels like a bigger game for Texas Tech than it does Kansas State. Matt Wells needs to win the winnable home game, something that he really hasn't been able to do during his time in Lubbock. Now look at Texas Tech now. They added Tyler Shuck in from at quarterback from Oregon. They returned 8 starters on defense. But the key number I'm looking at here is they allowed 186.4 rushing yards per game. Texas Tech allowed 186.4 rushing yards per game. Kind of similar to that Stanford game you mentioned earlier. We think Deuce Vaughn can have a big day down in Lubbock. Not to mention Skylar Thompson, his dual threat ability is something that all teams are going to have to account for when they face Kansas State. I think the Wildcats go into Lubbock and narrowly beat Texas Tech. It will be close, but they will take down the Red Raiders. They come home and take on TCU. They beat the Horned Frogs 21-14 last year. That was on the road. That was a game that many didn't think Kansas State would win, and they got the job done. Now we know this TCU team should be better than they were last year. Let's keep in mind they also won that game at TCU without Skylar Thompson. We know this TCU team should be better than they are last year. Max Duggan is back. They're going to have a very potent rushing attack, a team that rushed for well over 200 rushing yards per game in 2020. And their defense, that front 7 especially, very, very good. Might be one of the best in the Big 12, maybe one of the best in the nation. But the thing is, if they can go on the road and beat TCU last year with some offensive inconsistencies, I think they can now beat TCU at home with a more consistent offense and a defense that by this point, by the end of October, should have fixed some things up. Kansas State was not great against the run last year either. But if they can contain Max Duggan in the pocket, if they can slow down this TCU running attack and force the Horned Frogs to win the game through the air, I think that's a recipe for Kansas State to win this game. And I think Chris Kleiman and his squad do just that. It's going to be close. Last year was only by a touchdown. It'll be close again. But I'm going to give them the minor upset over the Horned Frogs. And we're, of course, going to give them the road win at Kansas. Lance Leipold comes into his first year in Lawrence. There was absolutely no talent with this squad. Kansas, as many have said, needs to be patient. Someone even said that they need to give Leipold at least 6 years in Lawrence to get things going. Usually we say 3 or 4 for a brand new head coach. Some are saying 6. Kansas State beat the Jayhawks 55-14 last year. They'll win big again. Many teams will win big against Kansas, a team who may not even win a Big 12 game this season. So we said they need to win the majority of that 3-game stretch there. They did. They won all of them in our eyes. 3 straight wins. So 3 straight wins, 3 straight losses, 3 straight wins. Kansas State is 6-3. They're going bowling. They could lose out. They're still going to the postseason. They go into the final stretch here in November and take on West Virginia. And this is a West Virginia team that's going to be very, very good in 2021. And when we say that, we're not saying 9-10 win season. We're not saying, oh, they're Big 12 title contenders. Because again, that's still Oklahoma and Iowa State until proven otherwise. But West Virginia had the number 1 passing defense in the country last year. They had the number 4 overall defense in the country last year. They now have 8 starters coming back on offense. Jarrett Dagey, Letty Brown, all of their top pass catchers. And they beat Kansas State 37-10 last year. Do I see a 27-point swing now from 2020 to 2021? Absolutely not. This West Virginia team has a chance to be even better than they were in 2020. And even though the game is in Manhattan, West Virginia has kind of owned Kansas State lately. We're going to give the edge to the Mountaineers here, a team that's very, very scary in 2021. So the Wildcats dropped that game, 6-4. They stay at home and take on Baylor. They fell to the Bears 32-31 last year. One of just 2 wins for Baylor in 2020. I look at it now, with the game being in Manhattan, with it being senior night of all nights, I'm going to give the edge to Kansas State here. This is a Baylor defense that should really take a major step forward under Dave Aranda. Brilliant defensive mind, he certainly has the talent for it. It's the Baylor offense that concerns me the most. All of their top pass catches are back. They've got to find a quarterback to get them the ball, and they drastically have to improve their rushing offense. And I think maybe they can improve those numbers by November 20th, the second to last game of the year, but I don't know if it's going to be enough still to come on the road and beat the Wildcats in Manhattan on senior night. A little bit of revenge on Kansas State's mind. They should have won last year, almost won last year, didn't. They will this year. They're going to clinch their 7th win against Baylor, but they're going to drop the season finale at Texas. They fell to the Longhorns 69-31. We're not going to see a 38-point swing here. Steve Sarkisian's offense is going to take off big in Austin, not to the point where you're going to see Texas contend for a Big 12 title now, but enough where they're going to still put up a handful of points against some of these lesser opponents. Not to say Kansas State is one, but it's one that Texas should win comfortably. Casey Thompson, Bijan Robinson, solid defensive line, solid secondary. Texas has the makings where if they pull off a handful of upsets, they could challenge for a conference title, but I really don't think you'll see that until year 2 under Sarkisian. But I just don't see Kansas State being able to come on the road and win in Austin on senior night as well after falling by 38 last year. So having said that, guys, we have Chris Kleiman's squad finishing 7-5 in 2021. That's a good year. It's a good year. They went, 4-6 last year? Tale of two halves, really. Outside that Arkansas State loss, very strong start, very poor finish. We expect them to kind of do the same here. Strong start, struggle in the middle, but they're going to end up winning 4 of their final 6 games in our eyes to finish 7-5, a shot at an 8-win season if they can win their bowl game. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Also, make sure to check out everything down in that description below. That includes our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Make sure to go over, sign up for those today before the season starts. I promise you will not regret it. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.